Your City Council will hold a work session today at 6:30. All right. And we have,
We do. If you're talking about Miss Jessie Steiger from
Yeah,
Fox Group,
she disappeared and now she's back.
she's there and looks like everything's working. Jessie, you can hear us okay? And you're muted at the moment.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Try that again. You might have.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
There we go.
All right.
Okay. Your pen ready to go in yours, Mayor.
All right, well, I'm gonna turn it right over to Jesse, who's going to give us the lowdown
Okay.
on the Bosch Group.
Good job. Sure. Anybody else need a pen? Right. So Ms. Jessie Steiger is with project manager with the Bosch Group, and she'll be leading us through this. Again, the purpose of today's work session is to discuss the public safety building architect, request for proposal, selection process. And then afterwards, for those that would like, we'll do a little tour of the municipal grounds here with the committee and really anybody else who would like to attend. And that'll just be a casual walkthrough. And so with that, Miss Jessie, if you'd like to take us through the process, and then we can do a question and answer period. Another purpose is just to make sure that everybody understands this process. And then that way in the public, if we have any questions or concerns, you're able to answer those about this. Any questions before we start, Council, Mayor? Selection committee members also, I'd like to introduce, we have Robert Lee, who's our resident, has been for a long time and has building experience. And we have Jay Speakman, local business owner, also longtime resident, and has also been involved in emergency services in the past. So with that, Miss Jessie.
Sure. I'll just give you kind of a highlight reel of what the RFP is and what the selection process is. And then I'll be happy to answer any questions if I, went over it too quickly. So we issued a request for proposal a few weeks ago. It's posted on the city website. It's advertised in a local construction journal called the DJC. We've had quite a bit of interest from it, which is great. And then last week we had a non-mandatory meeting on site so that any proposing teams could tour the facilities if they were interested, and we discussed the contents of the RFP. And it is the proposals are due next week on Tuesday. And I'm going to do kind of a quick check on them and make sure they meet all the that they've met all the minimum requirements, and then we're going to send it out to the selection committee. The RFP selection committee is kind of a joint group. So on it, we have myself, Chad Sweet is the city administrator. We had our 2 community members, which is great. Then we had both the fire chief and the police chief on it. I thought that their ability to kind of weigh in on the technical aspects of the proposing teams is pretty important. And then the other person we have on the selection committee is Justine, is it Hill, I think? She's your financial officer? Mm-hmm. Okay, I haven't met her yet, so I'm a little unclear on that name yet. And so part of the RFP, what we've asked the design teams to provide the scope of work for this procurement is part of the scope of work is to take we call it the program for the public safety building, a combined fire police station. And what a program is, it kind of defines the space, all right? This is really what gets into how many square feet does this building need to be. And so what they're going to do is kind of start with the previous effort we had at our program. And what we're looking at is try to find ways to make the building smaller. Construction is quite expensive these days. I think everybody is pretty painfully aware of that. So we want to see what our opportunities are to shrink the size of the building by either reducing, maybe eliminating some spaces or combining them so that some spaces are more multi-purpose. So that's part of the scope of work. The other thing that we want them to do is to, on the existing site, is a quick analysis of the existing fire station so that we can demonstrate with some analysis why renovating it in its current state really isn't going to be possible. And then their other scope of work is to provide conceptual designs for 2 different locations. And then cost estimating to go with that. And then we're also doing 4 community engagement sessions, right? This facility wants to really be driven by the community and what type of project gets proposed to council to put forth on a future bond. So these proposals will come in next week. The selection committee will review the written proposals. They're scored across several different sections with different scoring criteria. So we look at their resumes, their individual resumes. What are their qualifications as professionals? We look at what similar projects have they done. You know, we want to see that they can design and build fire and police stations. I'd also prefer that they've done some work on the coast. It's a different environment that with different needs. And then we're also trying to hopefully that somebody's designed something either in the tsunami zone, which is a little more rare, or at least have had to design around natural hazards, because that's a different element that isn't a part of all projects. What else do we have in there? I've asked for some information about how they would approach the community engagement. I want to understand what their ideas are for some agenda items and how we would kind of facilitate these discussions with the community about what the project wants to look like. And gosh, there's a couple other things, but we're going to evaluate the written proposals. That's going to determine through the scoring who are the top 3 teams proposing, and then we will invite them to interview. And then we have interviews scheduled currently tentatively on September 10th. So the idea would be to interview 3 different teams, different set of questions. We're trying to get different information out of the interview than we are the written proposal. And then the selection committee would score the interview scores, tally that, and then we would bring forward the recommendation of the architectural selection to council for approval at the October meeting. That concludes my high-level summary.
Great. Thank you, Jesse. Also in front of you, Council Selection Committee, there is the architect selection schedule that's on your desk. This is the same one that we posted on the blog this last week. And so we have today, July 30th, City Council work session, August 7th, the Architectural Selection Committee kickoff meeting. August 12th is when we have scheduled a town hall. And that is to introduce, now that really doesn't have anything to do with the selection committee, but it's part of the engagement process where we're going to be introducing the Klosh Group and line out the community engagement process for the public safety building. And Ms. Jessie is working on the agenda for that. And I will get that out to the council prior to publishing that, so that you have an opportunity to look at it and make any suggestions. Then August 13th, the selection committee meeting to review, score, and discuss written proposals that we received. And I think at that meeting that we had during the work that we did with the committee, we had about 13 different firms that were here that are interested. Now, how many of them actually put in a proposal, I'm not sure, but I was very pleased with the amount of interest that's in there. So I think we're going to have a good group to select from. So August 13th, again, selection committee meeting to review, score, and discuss the written proposals. September 3rd, we're going to meet to finalize the architect interview questions. September 10th, the selection committee interviews the top 3 architectural teams through that scoring process. September 11th, Jesse from the Clash Group will submit final interview scores by email. And then September 12th through the 27th, we'll look at getting into architectural contract negotiations. And then hopefully through that process by October 2nd, hopefully, I think we will, the city council, the selection committee will recommend to the council awarding the contract to the top ranked architectural firm. So that's the process that we're going through with any of that. So if any of you have any questions about the selection schedule or anything that Jesse is proposing, or any concerns that you might have or comments, Mayor, if you want to lead us through that, that would be great. And
Through the comments?
well, yeah,
or
just
questions?
through the questions.
Okay, Rita, you got your hand up
Well, I
already.
don't mean to sound unkind, and I hope we don't come off as being unkind. But through this whole selection process, I've never spoken to the Klosh Group. And from what I understand on this, I will have no input on any design, architecture questions, architect questions, or the process until it's presented to me in October. Is this correct?
No, so you're not on the selection committee for the architect to get us through that process of where we're scoring and interviewing and doing all that. But you are the final decision maker as the city council as to who we actually select. We're going to propose to you this group who is scoring highest as far as
Right.
interview questions and things like that. This has nothing to do with the design portion yet.
So what I said, you're confirming that's accurate, that I will have no input until October on any of the architectural stuff.
Yeah, I think the way that it's designed, that is correct, but but we haven't gotten to design yet. Your second part of that question. was
Right. Oh,
The
I
design
understand
and
that.
all of that.
Well, yeah, and I didn't mean to come off as belligerent or unkind, I just wanted to see where I come in this whole process, so. Thank you, and I'm surprised that the Klosh Group has not contacted me in any way on any input in anything, so. I know I sound kind of disgruntled, maybe I am, but it's a process. So thank you.
Respond to that. So we wouldn't, so our contracts with the city of Gerhart, and then I report to Chad. So it would be, I would frankly never just like start randomly reaching out to council members, as it would be like jumping the level of authority and kind of like going around people. So we have a committee, Dana and Preston have been on it, Chad's there, police and fire chief. So there's been a committee where we've discussed, how to structure the procurements and things. But yeah, I just reaching out and talking specifically just to individual council members is just not something we would normally do. It's kind of circumventing the communication process.
But when we interviewed you for the position to be our contact people, at that interview process, you said that you would contact each and every one of us. Or someone, I don't know if it's you or your partner, but that's why I was expecting something. So anyway, thank you for your comments, I appreciate it.
And we are working hard to make sure that all the notes from the meetings that we have are being sent to the city councilors at this point. I think from the last two meetings, we've had those notes delivered to all of the councilors so that you have an understanding of what's happening in those meetings.
And I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, and so that's just an attempt to keep you informed. I don't know that it's perfect, but it helps a little bit. And then there was one more point I wanted to make about that. And also like any communication that goes out to the public, I'm trying to get that through the council as well. Like, for example, the last blog post that we did explaining our process and what the next steps are. I did have, and we will continue to do that, to have the entire council look it over and to see if there's any concerns. I mean, we're trying our best to communicate both to the council and the public, and we want to be more of that, and we will continue to take those notes, put them out to the council prior to making any blog posts in the future. So that you have an opportunity to ask any questions that might come up similar to this, you know, where is the contact? If we're not involved, do we need to be involved and that sort of thing, so,
Thank you.
yeah.
Does anyone else have a question for Jesse?
I do.
Sharon?
Will there be notes that are sent to us for each of these selection committee meetings?
It's not so much notes, but the scoring criteria where we take notes on why we scored things a particular way. The scores could be shared with you. I think is probably a good way to communicate that.
And then I think staff will summarize all the meetings that we have and get that out to the council as we have been for the last 2 as well, so that you have an understanding of what's going on and can be notified.
Be good. An understanding of what's going on would be very, very helpful.
Yeah, and you've received the last 2 versions, correct? Does that suffice what you're looking for? Does that give you enough communication?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good.
That only happened because I brought that up.
Well, yeah, after the first meeting when we were getting, yes, you brought that up, so that was helpful.
My second question, Jesse, is are you aware of some of the sentiment in our community about including Leslie Miller Park as a potential site? Have you been made aware of what's going on in our community?
Yeah, I am aware. We've talked about it quite a bit. I joined the Facebook group as well, so I could kind of see some of the conversations for myself.
Anybody else at that end?
Sure.
Okay, Dana?
I guess I'm still trying to navigate this and trying to, I don't want to be disrespectful, because I know that everybody's equally invested in this and everybody is getting questions about this. But we have to, I guess I'm gonna compare it to the bench committee. Right, I mean, not quite as a hot topic item as this, but there was still a process that we went through in order to avoid serial meetings and communications that shouldn't have happened, which have not happened in this instance, but which people may try to allege, and so we have to be extra careful to avoid any appearance of that. And so I want to make it clear to everybody that no decisions have been made. This RFP is not a decision just because the wording in the RFP says that, you know, we want to primarily look at this point, at this spot, but the park has been included also, as well as another unnamed place. That is the opposite of saying we want to build at the park. That is saying to any architect or engineer that we would select that wants to hit it out of the park, wants to make our people happy, they've already been told up front that we expect that the people will want it to be built here. So they're gonna try their best to make it built here. But one thing that's never been talked about in all of the process that we've gone through is price. What is it gonna cost to build here? We don't know. Normally, we know that they didn't like the price and they didn't like the location outside of Gerhard. Normally, when you try to reduce the price of a project, you reduce the scope. In this case, we're doing the opposite of that. We're increasing the scope by looking at this place, at this location. Because now, not only are we affecting the police department, the fire department, but we're more than likely gonna affect public works. We may have to permanently or at least temporarily move them. We're definitely gonna have to temporarily house the fire department and the police department. All of that is gonna add to our costs, as well as the unknowns about building here, the engineering and everything else. And so while we might say this is our goal, it would be short-sighted and tunnel vision for us at this point right now to say, and it will not be absolutely any place else that we own property. So I think that the RFP was written in a way that doesn't say we're going to build at the park. It just says we want to build here. But when we get into talking about the cost of building here, if the public then says, nah, that's too much, we're not dead in the water and we don't have to go out for another RFP. This RFP is very inclusive that allows us to go, okay, so you don't like that. That's fine. Let's talk about this, or let's talk about that, or let's talk about that. This RFP was written to be very inclusive, to give us a lot of options. It doesn't tie us in. And no decisions have been made. What they're going to do, what the selection committee is going to do, is just interview architects and engineers. And they're going to say, hey, this sounds like a good architect and engineer, and then they're gonna send it to us, and then we will have the last say that, yeah, we agree with that architect engineer, or we're not gonna agree with that architect engineer. So we will have a say in it, but I think that it allows the public a little bit more feedback in this, and it gives us a little bit, people are accusing us of directing in one direction or another. This is gonna be directed by them, they're gonna come to us, but we will have the ultimate say to say, no, that's, we need to start afresh. But as you can see, this RFP process takes a very long time. So let's say we got, 6 months down the road and figured out something that kept us from being able to build here. Do we wanna really go through another 3 or 4 month process, or do we wanna be able to pivot at that point? We already have a contract with this architect engineer to say, okay, give us another solution. One other thing that I want people to keep in mind is that throughout this whole process, I don't know if you're talking back in 2006, 2005, when they proposed the entire big building here, or when they proposed it, all we've ever talked about in this community is one big building to meet our needs. And we have a very oddly shaped piece of property here. And we are now talking about impacting public works. We're gonna have to shoehorn a whole lot into this oddly shaped piece of property. And then we've made it more expensive by possibly building in a tsunami inundation zone, which means now we're gonna have engineering that's gonna cost us a little bit more for the essential building. So these folks, we need to, instead of narrowing down and say, don't look at that, don't look at that, only consider this one, we need to open up to them and say, you're the experts. Tell us how to solve this problem, because we've got a really big problem to solve. We don't know what they're going to come up with, but we need to allow them to come up with solutions for us that we haven't even considered. What if they say, let's just build the essential building to that engineering standards, and then we break everything up? I don't know. But we can't limit them. We can't get tunnel vision, and that's what this RFP was done. It's not a shot off the bow saying, city council wants to build in any particular place, because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't care where it's built as long as it's built. I really don't.
Thank you, Dan.
I had just one thing to say.
Okay,
A lot of you people, get on social media and everything like that. There has never, ever been a secret meeting about this fire police station. Not one. We made no decisions. That's up to the general public. The decision is gonna be up to the citizens of Gerhart. It's not gonna be me, it's not gonna be Dan, it's not gonna be, the citizens of Gerhart are gonna tell us what it is that they want. Okay, so let's just get that straight right now. I'm sick and tired of going on Facebook and listening to all this goddamn garbage that everybody's spewing.
thank you.
I've been here a long time. This just makes me want to go back over across the tracks and close my gate.
All right. So I have a question for Jesse. Jesse, when you were talking, you said you were going to ask different questions of the different architectural firms to get different information. Was that an accurate statement on my part?
Yeah, basically we've asked within the written proposals, kind of some vague questions. I asked about what is your approach to how you're going to evaluate these two different sites, and how do you propose to kind of convey the information and distill it down so that the community can understand it. And then I've also asked kind of another open-ended question about how they would like to approach the community engagement process. What are their ideas for holding community meetings and engaging in some meaningful topics. And so I left the questions kind of vague on purpose so that we could see a bit more variety in the responses, as I feel like that's gonna help us evaluate the proposals
Okay, so-
more competitively.
All right, so it's just for the proposals, so you're not talking about the interview for the 3 top finalists?
Yeah, not yet. We haven't written any of those questions yet. It's usually nice to actually kind of get through the whole written proposals. And then with the selection committee, we're going to talk about what more information do we want? And then we're going to start to craft some interview questions. So that's, what we could do if council wants a little more, involvement is like after we evaluate the written proposals, we could share some of the scores and what we learned. And if people have some ideas for interview questions they'd like to submit, we could kind of include those or try to vet them and make a solid, interview.
Okay, the reason I was asking the question is I was confused as to the point of when you're going to ask different questions. Because I thought when you have an interview, you have to ask basically the same questions of each individual or each company. So no one gets a possible inference of bias.
You're correct. There will be the same questions asked of all of the firms.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
just wanted to make sure I was on track with you. Great. All right. So does anyone else have anything to say? Well, okay, guys, Jesse, what do you want to do? You want to go for a walk?
I've seen the buildings. I'm good.
I don't know what else to do, Chad, because I don't have a agenda to say,
Certainly.
next step is,
So the 2 things we wanted to accomplish today was to discuss the RFP selection process and then afterwards go for a tour of the municipal grounds. So after we close this meeting, we can go for an impromptu walk around the grounds so that people have an understanding of what we have here. We have representatives from the fire department in our division chief, Andy Park, and Sergeant Ian Brown, who can help answer any questions. They're helping to represent today. They've been working here for some time and understand the situation that we're in. So what we'll do, those of you that would like to attend are welcome to. Council, again, we're not making any decisions. We're not having any conversations within the council with this walk around. We are just kind of observing and then asking questions in regards to our facilities as they are now.
okay, well, what I will do, I will not close this meeting. We will walk around. We can have the public with us too. So they witness the fact that we're not making decisions or discussions. We can ask our questions. I don't know if you were asking for public input since this is a work session, but we'll come back here and then we'll end the work session.
Okay.
That way
sounds good.
it is all above board and we're not having like, they were all together, it was a secret meeting and I'm not having that.
We do have our city recorder along with us and Justine, and she can help us take some notes as well along the walk around. And with that being said, let's go for a quick tour. We'll start with the police station right through those doors. And for those that would like to attend the walk.
And don't blink when you go in there.
All right.
You'll miss it.
Thank you,
And
Jesse.
you're welcome. If any questions come up in the tour and you guys want me to come back, Chad can just give me a call.
Yeah, I'll give you a call if we need to, but I don't anticipate we'll need that at this point. But if we do, I'll give you a call.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
I know, if you want to leave, that's your
Yeah,
business.
okay, thank you.
Okay, yes, not a mandatory attendance for those that don't want to, but we're gonna start here in police department.
I'll do this one, I'm not the line.
You're on that. You're so nice. Old one count?
Yes.
I changed it on there. I'm still like.
Well,
Oh, they
they
didn't.
didn't contact me.
What is?
Chad, when you're ready, you'll have to unmute.
Okay, there we go. Okay, and we're just waiting for you to know.
Okay, is there anything else, Jack? Anyone have any other questions or comments? Work session's over. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming out.